morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
When a cowboy saddles up early on a summer morning and heads out for the day's job, he really doesn't know what lies ahead. And this week, some good hands will recall a few days where things really went sideways.
It's just a mix-up. Everybody's crossing over one another trying to keep track of the cow. And I looked around, and here I see Stan Murphy sitting in the back corner of the corral kind of watching all this confusion.
You know, some so-called scientific experts keep trying to explain everything that happens with an academic theory, but Baxter Black has an interesting slant on that today.
What if it is out of our hands? What if we are witnessing an example of nature doing her thing?
On the Rangeland News, having a neighbor or somebody else haul your horses or your cattle to a summer show could put them at risk.
Having a clean trailer is pretty important to try to minimize transmission of some potential pathogens.
And we'll have an update on the controversy revolving around the slogan, "The World Needs More Cowboys." Great piece of cowboy poetry, a neat classic song of the West, and on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear horse training file, this old horse had been ridden with a curb bit for years. Why did you want to ride him in a snaffle? Well, that's because I think I can really help him that way, and I'll give you more details. Montana's High Country Cowboys released a brand new album this week, and we'll get things rolling with this one from it.
Wanna saddle my horse in the darkness, ride out with the morning dew. I wanna breathe some air that's never been breathed. I wanna drink the wine of freedom, toast the good ones that we knew. I'm gonna count 1,000,000 stars and think of you. I wanna see one more hometown rodeo where it's hats off for the flag. We'll cheer that bucking horse in wild ride. I'm gonna shoot a hole in my TV set and let the silence ring on through. I'm gonna count 1,000,000 stars and think of you. Don't tell me that the West is dead and gone. My poor heart can't stand to hear that sad old song. In saying that you've missed it all, I'm betting that you're wrong. Don't tell me it's dead and gone. I wanna see one more Charlie Russell print in some old sale barn cafe, where the old men over coffee tell their tales. I wanna ride out with the wagons, smell the scent of springtime sage, want the wind at my back on down the trail. I wanna see suntan cowbell cheeks and long braids neath a hat, wanna hear the summer rain on the roof at a country dance. We'll ride out a raging storm till the light comes shining through. Gonna count 1,000,000 stars and think of you. Don't tell me that the West is dead and gone. My poor heart can't stand to hear that sad old song. In saying that you've missed it all, I'm betting that you're wrong. Don't tell me it's dead and gone. Don't tell me that the West is dead and gone. My poor heart can't stand to hear that sad old song. In saying that you've missed it all, I'm betting that you're wrong. Don't tell me it's dead and gone. Don't tell me it's dead and gone.
The fine Montana horse trainer John Ensign has been in the main event Trainers Challenge a couple of times and done a fine job, but a while back on a summer day, his schedule changed drastically and suddenly.
Well, when we started the day, we kind of like every day, we just got up early and we came out to our pasture and we ran all our horses in, put them in the corral, and we walked through them just to catch them. We like to, catch them and let them stand tied for a while. And we got all the horses caught. They were all standing tied, and there was one mule that was left to catch. And I walked over to him and petted on him like every other day and put my halter on, and I went to tie the knot on my halter, and he was very relaxed. Things were looking okay, and I went to tie the knot on that halter, and he swung around with a hind foot and kicked me in the side of the knee.
And the results were not good?
No, not not so much. It basically tore 3 out of 4 tendons in my knee, tore them in half. And so it's been pretty expensive getting everything kind of put back together now.
And how long did you spend in hospital then?
I was in the hospital for a day. They put me on a lot of anesthesia. They reset my leg, and they put me in, a big brace, and so I couldn't move my leg side to side or front to back. And basically had to wait until the swelling went down so I could go in and get some surgeries done.
Well, John did appear at the main event the next year, and as I said, he did a fine job. And by the way, he has a cow working horsemanship clinic coming up on August 4th and 5th. 2 days, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Diamond D Ranch and Horse Boarding at Belgrade, Montana. And the first day will be horsemanship, dry work, preparing your horse to work cows. They will work a small number of cows out of a road ear, and then on the second day, the group will ride out and gather and move cows, cross water, see wildlife, and more. And for information, you can call Ada at 406-224-2540, or you can email John at johnensign.com. And his website is johnensignhorsemanship.com. That's JONENSIGN, and you'll hear more about his recovery when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. It started out as a pretty routine day for Montana horseman John Ensign. They'd saddled up and ridden out to gather the horses early in the morning, the ones that he and his son planned to work with for the day. They had them all tied up, and then a mule John was working with shattered John's knee with a vicious kick, tearing 3 out of the 4 tendons in his knee right in half. After an initial stay in the hospital, once the swelling went down, John was back for more surgery on the knee.
They were able to fix 2 tendons out of the 3. But the way that the tendons heal and operate, they fixed 2 that need quite a lot of vigorous therapy on them, lots of bending, lots of stretching the tendons. And the 3rd one that they have to come in and replace needs to be very still. And so they were able to fix 2 out of the 3. I go back in about 6 weeks and have the 3rd one repaired.
My gosh. So just take me back to what happened when, after the impact and you were on the ground and you were fully conscious and could see what was happening?
Well, I was. It's something that I didn't see. I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it happen. I sure felt it, and I heard it. And the way it sounded, I knew I was in trouble. And the pain didn't hit me probably, the first minute or 2, I guess. I instantly tried to get, but it knocked me on my back. And it actually, my son was in the corral on a horse, and it actually knocked me up underneath his horse. And so he had to kind of maneuver his horse around to get off of me. But the mule actually tried to kick me a couple more times, and I'm glad that he was there. As handy as he was able to keep that mule off of me and then open the gate and get it out, so I was safe. I instantly tried to get back up, and being on my back is not a place I like to be. And so I instantly tried to get up, and I put pressure on my leg, and there was just nothing there, and I fell back down again.
And as we mentioned, John did make pretty well a full recovery, and he has that big cow working clinic coming up. So check out his website and maybe look at taking that in. You know, sometimes even on a big outfit with a bunch of top hands on good horses, things can go sideways, and a longtime cowboy recalls a day like that right after Ryan Fritz in the title song from one of his recent releases.
A windblown buckaroo rides a high range, but he tries to hug against the timber line. Ears ringing, wires singing, tails swishing wild. As long as he's horseback, he don't mind. He steps out on a ledge where he can see that coulee where those strays might hide. But his colt is mighty skittish as he feels the wind, and he spooks back toward the mountainside. Wind-blown buckaroo, the big old wind's gonna blow right through. Wind-blown buckaroo, the sweet old song that you grew up to. Prevailing winds keep an open sky, but he feels the wrath tugging on his hat. Now he could cuss the maker or sing his praise, for them Chinook winds allow those cows to graze. And as the sun drops behind the rocks and the winds lay low for the night, he gets behind that herd of cows and he whoops them home below the full moonlight. Wind-blown buckaroo, the big old wind's gonna blow right through. Wind-blown buckaroo, sweet old song that you grew up to. Wind-blown buckaroo, sweet old song that you grew up to.
That's Ryan Fritz, and he spent quite a few years earning wages on the famous Douglas Lake Ranch, and this guy did too. He manages the big South Peace stock farm these days, and when Dan Stocking came on one of our Spirit of the West cruises with us, he really enjoyed himself, and he enjoyed everything until I sat him down and pointed a microphone at him. But once he got into it, he had a good time, remembering some of the cowboys he rode with and the times they had.
Wendell was there, Totten had Nasty, they called 40 Mile, Rock Creek, I can't think of his name offhand right now, so you put me under pressure here.
Lots of pressures in here.
Yeah, but yeah, there was lots of guys, Kenny Kingdon, Miles Kingdon was there. Yeah, a whole bunch of them guys. Orville, Terry Milligan, Jake Cooley.
I got to ride
Holmes, all them guys.
Yeah. Oh, Scotty, yeah. I got to ride with a few of those guys only once, and it was in December, about the 3rd or 4th, and they were moving all the replacement heifers from Chaparral to English Bridge, I think, and The guy I wound up riding beside was Jake Cootley, and what an honor that was. Right?
He's very soft-spoken and stuff like that, and he won't tell you a whole lot of the secrets of cowboying, but if you just kind of watch him and if you show that you're genuinely interested, he will let you in on a few of the secrets of the old trade and stuff like that. So yeah, no, good people, and
those guys are so special. And sit back and kind of keep your mouth closed and watch what he does and try and be in the right position.
Yeah, I had to. Stan Murphy was another one, good horseman, and I know the first year I went to Douglas Lake, and I was up at the Chaparral end there with Keith Smith, and so anyway, we come down to English Bridge, and we had to work some dry cows out of a bunch of pairs there. And so Stan said, okay, guys, just kind of go through the herd here slowly, and we'll just bring these dry cows. Well, of course, there's about 8-10 of us. Everybody goes after a dry cow, and we're all trying to head her for the gate. And, of course, it's just a mix-up. Everybody's crossing over one another, trying to keep track of the cow. And so anyway, I just stopped, and I looked around, and here I see Stan Murphy sitting in the back corner of the corral, kind of watching all this confusion. And I just pulled out, went back there, and then soon, everybody realized, and they just stopped, and then we started doing it right and pulling them out one at a time, and doing a good job on it, But yeah, you just, everybody's just kind of gung-ho, and you just kind of, give your head a shake and look around a little bit, and you see.
How are we shaping this up here?
Yeah, that's right.
Coming up, it will be the one and only Baxter Black to analyze frog mutations. A brand new song from a good Oklahoma guitar picker, and then the Rangeland News when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan with a little peek at frog deformities. Ladies and gentlemen and followers of cowboy humor, I have carved another book from my funny bone, guaranteed to tickle your humorous. Sorry. The title is Scrambled Wisdom. Almost isn't is it? Which almost makes sense. Regardless, it's almost $20, only $19.95 plus shipping. Call 800-654-2550 or online at baxterblack.com. Here's a joke. What did he get on his IQ test? Drool. Frog deformities traced to parasitic flatworm. This headline brought down the poster boy for those who make a living promoting human culpability in Mother Earth's deterioration. But mind you, they're going to scramble to find another. They are already. But deformed frogs, missing or having multiple hind legs, were so graphic. Photographs of these misshapen amphibians could be paraded like the Elephant Man at a freak show. But the key to its success as a symbol is that promoters could point their fingers squarely at the middle-class, urban, earth-conscious, guilt-ridden LL Beaners and demand donations to their respective causes. Well, not being scientists, these enviro-solicitors needed not truth, only inference and illusion. And granted, the scientific community often did not help. For 20 years, as they watched these frog deformities develop, they began to speculate, presuppose, throw darts at the wall, actually guess, with no factual substantiation as to the cause, suggesting pesticides, chemical pollution, UV radiation, and many other politically correct causes that might attract research funding. I remember thinking as my fellow scientists postulated grave doomsday reasons meant to elicit fear in the ever-disbelieving public, boys, you are shooting yourself in the foot if you have no facts. Well, it seems like I'm taking pot shots at everyone involved, and maybe my criticism is not justified. After all, it's science in the end that will find a cure for what ails the frogs, and it is the good-hearted urban LL Beaners who will have the compassion that will stimulate the search for a cure, and of course the antis will find another victim to hoist on their petard. But, and it's only a but, what if it is out of our hands? What if we are witnessing an example of nature doing her thing? Mankind has spent millennia of thought on the hows and whys of extinction and evolution, and then right before our 21st century eyes, with no interference from humans, a species is evolving. And we are merely spectators, and maybe this time, at least, we are innocent. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan. Thanks for listening.
For quite a few years, we really enjoyed the International Western Music Association festivals and always impressed with the music of Jeannie Cahill and Jerome Campbell. Kind of fixtures there. Jerome is a fine guitar picker. I think he owns at least 7 guitars. His latest album just arrived. This one's called Thunder Rumble.
I want to hear that thunder rumble. I want to smell the prairie rain. I want to see a double rainbow out on the western plains. I want a ranch house with a front porch with a rocking chair for 2. I want walnut trees in my front yard and a backyard barbecue. I want to sleep in peace each night beside the one that I love and wake up every morning to the sound of cooing dove. And with God's help, His will be mine. All it takes is work and time. I want to be a cowboy, yes sir. I want to smell the prairie rain. I want to see a double rainbow out on the western plains. I want a ranch house with a front porch with a rocking chair for 2. I want walnut trees in my front yard and a backyard barbecue. I want to sleep in peace each night beside the one that I love and wake up every morning to the sound of cooing doves. And with God's help, His will be mine. All it takes is work and time. I want to be a cowboy, yes sirree, the life for me. Just a singing cowboy, that's me. Yodelee, 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 yodelee.
Now the news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
Well, there are a lot of horse and cattle shows going on this time of year, and there have been, believe it or not, cases where animals have picked up infections and developed diseases from grooming equipment and even from trailers. With more, here's Rod Bain.
When it comes to keeping a show animal's equipment clean and disinfected to avoid the spread of viruses and diseases during fairs, exhibitions, and sales, an extension expert says a priority should be the transport trailer.
Especially if someone is driving your animals for you or transporting your animals to the show for you, having a clean trailer is pretty important to try to minimize transmission of some potential pathogens.
And Purdue University's Bethany Funnell says just as important is making sure combs, clippers, and other show equipment is thoroughly cleaned and disinfected, especially in the event another livestock owner may need to borrow an item or the owners may need to lend an item out.
Things that the animals are going to come directly into contact with, really, you need to be very careful about those. And things that the animal may not actually have direct contact with, a good wash and rinse is probably fine. So, for instance, fans.
She adds livestock owners should give ample notice when borrowing or lending show equipment so there is enough time for cleaning and disinfecting. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Alberta's United Conservative Party is proposing recommendations it hopes will reduce rural crime in the province. And one of those includes a push to amend the Criminal Code of Canada to support the use of force as self-defense. The opposition party said in a report sections 34 and 35 of the Criminal Code should be reformed to ensure the use of force as self-defense precludes the prosecution of a crime. If someone uses force as self-defense, according to the party, courts should consider the response time of police, whether the offender failed to leave the premises once confronted, the number of people committing the crime, and if they appeared intoxicated, and whether the criminal was armed or exhibited threatening behavior. Currently, the law states that the use of force is justifiable only if someone has been attacked, and if they didn't provoke the attack. If attacked, the victim can retaliate with force as long as it isn't more than necessary and they can't cause severe harm or the death of the other person. The entire province of Alberta, both urban and rural, has seen about a 35% spike in property crime from 2011 to 2016, according to Statistics Canada. McDonald's Canada plans to offer certified sustainable beef burgers on its menus using animal care and environmental standards set by the Canadian Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. The company said more than 20 million Angus beef burgers will be sourced during the year, and that starts this year. McDonald's will use the Roundtable logo that represents production and processing standards based on more than 60 indicators covering animal care, nutrition, and environment. Participating producers must meet the standards and undergo on-farm certification audits. And I thought this was interesting. Air New Zealand is in the crosshairs of New Zealand's acting Prime Minister Winston Peters after the airline announced plans to offer a fake meat burger on an international flight. On July the 3rd, Air New Zealand announced it would be serving the plant-based Impossible Burger on flights from LA to Auckland, New Zealand, and the burger is made from an iron-containing molecule that comes from the roots of soy plants, and it will be available on the Business Premier menu. Members of Parliament in New Zealand have also called for the airline to change its menu. They said, "The national carrier should be showcasing our premium quality grass-fed New Zealand red meat, not promoting a product that has the potential to pose an existential threat to New Zealand's second biggest export earner." Air New Zealand. I remember I left my Kobo reader in the seat pocket on one of their flights from Auckland to Vancouver a couple of years ago, and they wanted $250 to send it back. So it's still there. Last week, we told you how the University of Wyoming's proposed new slogan, "The World Needs More Cowboys," was being criticized as racist, sexist, and counterproductive to recruiting out-of-state students by one of the associate professors. Well, guess what? The University of Wyoming is proceeding with a new marketing campaign intended to help grow its enrollment and raise its international profile with the primary campaign tagline, "The World Needs More Cowboys." And here's a little bit of the audio from that new campaign. See what you think.
The world needs more cowboys. And not just the kind that sweep you off your feet and ride you off into the sunset. Ours are diverse cowboys who come in every sex, shape, color, and creed. They come from Wyoming, Montana, Delaware, and Nigeria. Because it's not what you are that makes you a cowboy or cowgirl, but who you are. It's a shared spirit. It's the spirit of the underdog, the trailblazer, the kind of spirit that longs for something to prove, the kind that emboldens those who possess it to stand on the perimeter and howl into the unknown with unbendable optimism. The world needs more people to pick up the torch of progress and fearlessly venture onwards. The world needs more cowboys.
Well, the amazing Western Spirit Band is on the road again. Jim and Mike and I will be at the 42nd Annual Ivan Daines Country Music Picnic in August. This great event goes August 9th to 12th at the Daines Rodeo Ranch near Innisfail, and the boys and I look forward to seeing you there. We'll be on stage on Friday evening, as far as I know now. And Ivan worked so hard to put this together. I sure hope all of you can support it. Remember, free camping on the grounds with a weekend pass, and lots of great entertainment there. And then we will be at the Old McDonald's Music Festival. That happens September 7th and 8th at the Old McDonald's Farm near Erskine, Alberta. And we'll be there on the Saturday afternoon. And in the morning, you'll get a chance to see that great group, the Alberta Legends of Country Music, the Alberta Country Music Legends, with special guest star Pete Hicks. Looking forward to hearing them again. The only way you can get tickets for that is by calling this number, 403-742-6603. And the next regular cattle sale at the BC Livestock Co-op Kamloops Yards is August the 7th. It's a regular sale plus a yearling sale. And August 10th, the next regular one in Vanderhoof, and August 13th in Williams Lake. Get the schedule and all the information at bclivestock.bc.ca. Meanwhile, at the Innisfail Auction Market, family owned and operated for so many years, regular cattle sales every Wednesday. Sales start at 9 in the morning with butcher cows and bulls, and then calves and yearlings and bred cows and pairs. And you can get all the details at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. Now, the final item. Sure looking forward to that Mets-Marlins ball game in New York City Field with our Spirit of the West cruise group in September. And that's going to be great. Someday I'd love to see one of the last remaining original big league ballparks. There's Fenway Park, of course, and Chicago's Wrigley Field, where they have the big ivy vines that line the outfield fences. And, you know, years ago, the Cardinals were playing the Cubs there, and the Cubs pitcher was just getting hammered. And finally, the manager walked out to the mound, and he told the pitcher, I just can't remember who he was, he says, "I really hate to take you out, but the outfielders are getting too much poison ivy." And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up in the Urban Saddles and Western Wear horse training file, the guy said, "This old horse has been ridden in a curb bit most of his life. Why are you riding him with a snaffle?" And I will explain why when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Just ahead of the Urban Saddles and Western Wear horse training file, you may be aware that the National Day of the Cowboy is celebrated every year on the fourth Saturday in July, and that makes it this weekend. There are all kinds of events, from ranch rodeos to gymkhanas, horse shows, festivals, and more. And with a fine tribute, here's R.J. Vandergrift.
We rode the river and we roped together, lived through the black powder rain, climbed up on some tough ones, shared camp with some rough ones as we trailed cows to the train. And we are the heirs to the real Spanish treasure, the horses and cattle with horns. We faced down the devil and opened God's country back when the legends were born. We followed the way of the cowboy until the last gather's done. Mission bells ring and the angels still sing in the land of the rope and the gun. From the hands of the fathers to the sons and the daughters, the gift of life we enjoy. We ride through the valley, we ride through the shadow, the way of the cowboy. Saddle horn, smoke from a gun, committed for better or worse. No shame pulling leather when you're alone in the desert and one jump from dying of thirst. And on trails plowed under, we still raise thunder, others shrink back from the noise. Cause those that don't get us say we're wild and we're reckless, but no, we're just cowboys. And we follow the way of the cowboy until the last gather's done. Mission bells ring and the angels still sing in the land of the rope and the gun. From the hands of the fathers to the sons and the daughters, the gift of life we enjoy. We ride through the valley, we ride through the shadow, the way of the cowboy. Until my last day, I will live it the way of the cowboy.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Suit up for summer at Urban Tack and Western Wear. No, I'm not talking boots for the beach, although that would be interesting. I'm talking real summer stuff like sunglasses, sandals, and flip-flops, toys for the kids for those long summer road trips. You'll be surprised what you'll find at Urban's. Jewelry, purses, dishes, collectibles. Hey, all I can say is it's a whole lot of fun. Shopping Urban Tack and Western Wear off exit 305, Highway 2 by Crossfield, open 7 days a week. The older I get, it seems, the fussier I get about what I expect from the horse I ride. And what seemed like ages ago, we pastured about 45 horses on our place. They'd been picked up by a trader, and they were all shapes and sizes. And I would never do it this way now, but back then, although I knew absolutely nothing about their backgrounds or temperaments, I tried out a whole bunch of them. I'd just walk out with a halter or catch rope, and if one could be caught, I'd check his responses from the ground, then just swing on bareback, and I could tell fairly quickly if he had any handle on him. And I slid off some of them pretty quickly, but the ones with some feel, well, they got saddled, and I climbed on and rode them in a little corral with just a halter, and if they looked good, I went on from there. Now, one big bay gelding really seemed nice, so I just stuck a solid shank curb bit on him, and rode him up the trail to move some cattle. And I could tell he'd done lots of ranch work, and he sure had a fine neck rein. But with what the years have taught me, I could have had him even better if I'd started riding him with a snaffle or boselle, even though he had some age on him. You see, I really want to have some control over how they place their feet, how they flex and bend, and if they haven't learned some of these things early, I'd have trouble teaching them with a solid shank curb. Now, back then, I didn't care that much about that stuff. As long as they'd open up and head off a cow, go through the bush, climb the hills, I really didn't care what lead they were in or how high their head was. And I still think that's okay. There are lots of solid, dependable horses that have been ridden that way for years. These days, though, I just love the feel of a horse that's been introduced to, say, a cricket roller, shank bit, or half-breed type bit slowly, develop properly through the two-rein, and when they give to the bit, they flex at the pole, collect with a feather-light touch, and they handle their feet totally in balance. Now, that's what I like. But it depends on the job now. If it's getting some crafty, fast yearlings out of a rugged, brushy pasture, I'll still go back to a snaffle or a boselle, even on a well-seasoned bridle horse. And for Urban Saddles and Western Wear, that's the Horse Training File. You know, some things make things way better for your horse. One of them we find is Hoffman's Horse Ration. Lucky is in her 30s now, and she still looks and feels pretty good, I think, and she gets a dose of the senior's ration from Hoffman's every day. And you can find out more at hoffmanshorseration.com. You know, good hands on good horses can make the most challenging cattle work look easy. It's not. It takes years of experience, trial and error, days where it all falls apart, but when it works, it's Cowboy Heaven. And that's what Dan Stocking is talking about here.
You know, you watch them work in a herd and stuff like that, and, you know, they knew years and years of experience. And, yeah, you just sit back and open your eyes a little bit, and you could learn lots, you betcha. And, yeah.
Isn't that a nice feeling, though, when you're with a group of guys that are so savvy, and they've been there, and they've done that, and you got maybe a fairly challenging job to do, and you got a lot of cattle to hold in a spot with no fences, and you've got a 4 or 5 or 6 in this group that have to come out of there, and it's so nice when hardly a word is said, you don't waste any motion, it's maybe a nod, and that's about all, and it just happens. Boy, that's not a science, that's an art form.
That's right, yeah. Our biggest challenge a lot of times bringing them herds down was coming through that Spockman Indian Reserve and crossing the bridge there on the Douglas, at the end of Douglas Lake. And them cattle scared of the bridge, and of course we're in some barbed wire fences, some old thin rail snake fences and stuff. You bunch them too tight, you're busting fences and into hay meadows and stuff. And so, yeah, it was quite an art. You just start feeding them down in there, and there's crews there. They just keep coming back and taking small bunches and try and keep everything lined out and without getting too wild or anything, and just keep feeding them across. And
I've heard some stories from some of those folks about some of the wrecks they've had at that bridge. After, 6 or 7 hours of work and get to that bridge and it's all falling apart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we've gone lots of times, a mile and a half, 2 miles back up from the bridge, back up through them hay meadows and jumping irrigation ditches and stuff like that. And you try to prevent them. Of course, we send a fencing crew down there for a week fixing fence afterwards and stuff. But yeah, no, you try and prevent them things and work things slow. And
so, right, Dan, that always makes things go better. Now, if you listen regularly, you'll hear me thank our great support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan, each week near the end of the show. They do a lot to keep this thing on the air and a lot of other things we need help with, too. Now, you'll get to meet them on our cruise coming up in September for sure. And this is a bit of their history. It's all true. Mag Mawhinney wrote the words. Alan Moberg set them to music. It's called Breakin' Even, about Mark and Kathy.
They bought a piece of heaven far away from city living, and soon discovered it would take all the strength they could be given. They spent all one summer clearing land, picking rocks. They mended fence and fixed the pump that watered all the stock. For years they stretched $1 and sacrificed their freedom, and all along the way they were only breaking even. They were keepers of the land and a dream that they believed in, and the life they chose to live meant much more than breaking even. Fees they paid the government for dudes to ride the trails, and they emptied out their pocketbooks at all those auction sales. But each day was a promise to face the stormy weather. They always knew they'd make it through if they rode on together. For years they stretched $1 and sacrificed their freedom, and all along the way they were only breaking even. They were keepers of the land and a dream that they believed in, and the life they chose to live meant much more than breaking even. The cost to feed when hay ran short took every cent they had, and she had to take a job in town when things got real bad. The cards were stacked against them, but they knew they'd never fold. The only peace they'd ever known was worth its weight in gold. For years they stretched $1 and sacrificed their freedom, and all along the way they were only breaking even. They were keepers of the land and a dream that they believed in, and the life they chose to live meant much more than breaking even. Yes, the life they chose to live meant much more than breaking even.
So that's pretty well true. Words by Mag Mawhinney, and music and sung by Alan Moberg. Pretty much true. Coming up, this week's classic song of the West, and then Dwayne Nelson in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Time for a look at another one of those old classic Western songs. And professional singers and songwriters Arthur Fields and Fred Hall got a lot of recognition as imitation hillbillies beginning in the late 1920s. About that time, the major record companies like Victor and Brunswick and others were using genuine country artists more regularly by 1928, as studio regulars Field and Hall were able to offer their original country-style songs and performances to wider markets, mostly for minor labels under pseudonyms. Now, as the popularity of radio increased and the demand for recording studio singers decreased, Fields and Hall not only took prolifically to radio, but they participated in a lot of recording sessions that were made exclusively for radio. And a lot of their songs could be called corny. They're about as hillbilly as they could get, with titles like The Blackbird Died with a Whooping Cough, and others even worse. But they did write a song that could almost be considered a Western classic. It's been recorded by Rex Allen Sr., the Sons of the Pioneers, individually and together, the Girls of the Golden West, and countless others. And Riders in the Sky added it to their album of Western gospel-style songs called Land Beyond the Sun. So here it is, this week's classic song of the West, Riders in the Sky, and There's a Blue Sky Way Out Yonder.
There's a blue sky way out yonder, that's a roof over my head. There's a blue sky way out yonder, that's a cover for my bed. And wherever I wander, wherever I may roam, there's a blue sky way out yonder, and it's calling me home. I'm tired of roaming around, mighty tired, mighty blue.
I've searched but I never have found any place like the home that I knew.
There's a blue sky way out yonder, that's a roof over my head. There's a blue sky way out yonder, that's a cover for my bed. And wherever I wander, wherever I may roam, there's a blue sky way out yonder, and it's calling me home. And wherever I wander, wherever I may roam, there's a blue sky way out yonder, and it's calling me home.
Hi, hey, hi, ho, da-da-dee, da-da-dee, da-da-dee. Hi, hey, hi, ho, da-da-dee, da-da-dee.
There's a blue sky way out yonder, and it's calling me home.
The well-known cowboy poet Dwayne Nelson was sure well received when he was at the Kamloops Cowboy Festival a few years back, and he is the real deal. I'm going to let him introduce this one.
Now, I had some folks out riding with me one day, and a lady asked me if I ever got lonely out riding all by myself. Well, I thought about that for a while, and this poem is what I came up with. This is Cowboy Lonesome. Well, I was sitting in this little bar, and I struck up a conversation with this gal from the east, kind of a likely young lass who seemed to have no reservation about talking with an old cowboy like me. Said she envied my occupation. She wanted to know all about cowboy life because our work was like a vacation. So I told her all about saddling up and riding big circles all day, just checking cows, riding fence, how a buckaroo earns his pay. And how a cowboy rides for miles and hours, his only companion a horse, and sometimes a dog who trots alongside, for friendship his only source. And she says, why, riding alone like that, it's lonesome I would be. I think that I would go plumb nuts with no one for company. Well, that set me back, I'm here to say, on lonely I'd never thought. I just rode my horses, did my job, the solitude I'd sought. But I do have a horse and dog out here that keep me company, and, sometimes when I talk to them, they kind of speak to me. But there ain't no people to visit with when you're riding way out there. But there is the memories from all the ghosts with all their stories to share. See, I ride with the spirits of thousands of men who have ridden down here before. Their voices echo down the wind into the valley floor. And they tell me all about days gone by and adventures that they've had, of compañeros they have known, and horses good and bad. There's a cowboy a horseback gathering strays, and yes, there's a sheep herder too. And here is a mountain man trapping his furs and a warrior of the Sioux. And there is a settler crossing the plains, his wife and children in tow. And here is a miner asserting his claim, and a sheriff after his foe. And they all tell me how lucky I am to be making a living this way. And so I talk to the good Lord every night, and thank you is what I say. So you tell me my horse and dog don't count because they are animals only? Well then, yes, I do ride alone a lot, but I ain't never lonely.
Well, thank you so much for riding along this week, and I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. And, of course, thanks to Mark and Kathy, our great support crew, still breaking even. And remember, you can subscribe to Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine at cowboycountrymagazine.com or give them a call at 1-888-530-0131. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.